Hey friends, welcome back to my channel Naked Fusion. When you hear Egusi and Semo Vita, you probably think of the warm Nigerian meal. But today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm taking these two familiar names and giving them a brand new story. One that celebrates Nigeria's flavor in a totally unexpected way. So stay with me to the end because what starts as Egusi and Semo Vita won't end the way you think. So we're using these ingredients that are familiar to cooking Egusi soup. You can see some peppers, eggs, uziza, pumpkin leaf, water leaf, fresh tomatoes, semovita, egusi, blended egusi, olive oil, and some periwinkles. So these are the ingredients we'll be using today. First off, we'll be roasting our tomatoes, our peppers, our onions, and garlic. So I'm just going to put this in here, and then I'm going to drizzle some olive oil and add some salt and put this in my Ninja to roast for about 10 minutes. After that, I'm going to season my shrimps and just keep that in the fridge for when I am ready to use it. So to that, I'm going to add some olive oil, and then I'm going to add some onion powder, some salt and black pepper, as well as some garlic powder. Then I'll mix this together and then cover it up with a cling wrap and put it into the fridge till when it's ready to be used. Next step is to cut your onions. I just flipped my board because you can't merge raw seafood with vegetables. So to have a clean slate, I have flipped the board, and I'm just going to chop these onions into small dice for frying the egusi. Next, I'll be checking my vegetables that I was roasting, and I did check them and they looked very okay. They have caramelized and they look burnt, but it wasn't bad. It was really good. So to this, I'm going to put into a blender without any added liquid, and I'm going to blend. Please allow your vegetables cool down a bit before you blend to avoid explosion. Like, you need to hold on a bit. So I'm going to blend my vegetables not into an entirely smooth paste, but just blend it for some time. After blending, I'm just going to pour this mixture into my blended egusi, and I'm going to mix them together till it forms a thick paste. After that, I'm going to be removing the peels or the back of the tomato. So I'm going to make like a cross sign on it. I'm going to score that tomatoes, make a cross sign on it, and I'm using just 2 tomatoes. And this is a technique in case you want to take out the skin of your tomatoes. This is just for educational purpose. So after I've done that, I'm going to put this into boiling water, and then I'm going to count like 1 to 10 or 15 at most, like in seconds. You need like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. After that, I'm going to take this out and put it into a cold water. I've already put water in the freezer and the water is very cold, so I'm going to put that in cold water to stop the cooking. And then we're going to just allow that sit in that cold water just for a bit, and then watch how it's easier. The reason why we score this is so you can easily pick the edge of your tomatoes, and then it comes off quite easily. So I'm going to be using these tomatoes later. You would see what I'll use it for in the video. Next up, we're going to be making semo, but not in the way you know. This is where the twist comes in. You can see semo, you can see eggs, you can see olive oil, you can see salt, and you can see a scale. So we're going to make something with our semo. I'm just going to add semo flour. I'm going to measure out the amount of semo flour I want to, and then I'm going to put that on the surface here. Into that, I'm going to break in 1 egg. I started off with 1 egg, and then I added a yolk of the egg, and then I put that in the middle and I began to mix. At some point I realized that the eggs was not enough, so I added more of the egg whites. I added my olive oil, and a pinch of salt, and then I'm just going to knead that together. The dough became a bit difficult to knead together at some point, and then I had to add some of the leftover egg whites. You will see me do that right now. Okay, so the reason why I kept adding is to get the consistency that I want. However, if you want the recipe for this, I can give it to you. Just drop a comment in the comment section and you will get the recipe. So after I've rolled out my pasta, I'm going to press this and flatten it entirely, and then put it in a cling wrap and put it in the fridge to rest for an hour. While that is resting, we're going to move on to making our egusi. So into a heated pan, I've poured in some olive oil, and to that olive oil I'll be adding my chopped onions from before. To this I'll be adding my prawns immediately, and it's not to overcook the prawns at this point, just for it to curl up a little, and I'm going to take it out because I will add it back into egusi later. After I've taken out my prawns, I'm going to be adding some fresh pepper to my pot. Next goes in our egusi paste. I just scoop them with the spoon into this pot, and I'm just going to mix this. This is going to keep frying. If you look, it seems like there's no much oil. We're going to still add a little bit of oil. So this is what it looks like. This I found in the freezer. It is called ogiri. The people called it ogiri. I don't know what the English name is, because when I go to the market, that's what I ask them for when I want to purchase this. So I put that in because it adds flavor to the soup. So we're going to keep frying this, and then don't be worried about the brown bits on down, but it shouldn't, your stove shouldn't be overly high. It should be on low to medium, and then you're just going to fry this, and you need to keep stirring so it doesn't get so burnt. So you do this for some time, and then you begin to add the liquid gradually. At this point I added a little bit of olive oil again, and then I'm just going to keep stirring that. I'm going to stir that. You see that our egusi has actually moved from the first stage it was in to this stage. This is now more like scrambled eggs as compared to when it initially entered the pot. It was a paste. So I'm going to keep frying this. This is what we're trying to achieve. The egusi is still frying. This is what it's looking like. So it has to look like this, and then to this I'm going to be adding some blended crayfish, some seasoning cubes, salt, and crayfish seasoning as well. So I'm just going to add that in. I am not using any broth for this recipe, hence why I need to season this properly. So after I've done that, I've added all these. I'm going to mix them together and and then begin to add water. So I've just poured some water into the bowl we use for our egusi paste, and then that's why it's looking like that. I'm going to pour that in, and I'm going to mix that, and then I'm going to cover the pot and allow it to cook. While I cover that up, I realized I haven't put my uziza seed, so I quickly put that on the pan and just had it toasted very quickly. This enhances the flavor and makes it easier for me to use my mortar and pestle to get that into a smooth powder. So I've done that, and I'm just going to add that to my pot, and then I added more crayfish and more crayfish seasoning to this soup because I've tasted. Next up, I'm going to chop up my vegetable. I'm using little water leaf and little pumpkin leaf. Back to our soup. At this point, you'll see that some oil has floated to the top. To this egusi sauce, I decided to add some paprika, some smoked paprika to the sauce, just for another hint of flavor. Then I'm going to mix that up, and then I'm going to add some water into the pan, and then cover that and allow that boil. After some time, I'm going to add my water leaf, and then I'm also going to add my shrimps, and then I'm going to mix that up, add some more water, add my periwinkle, more water because we don't want it thick, we just want it saucy enough to embrace our pasta. So back to our pasta. It's been an hour, so if you have a pasta machine, bring out your pasta machine. So I've brought out my pasta machine, and I've taken some flour, all-purpose flour, which I'm going to just use for dusting the surface and the machine. So to that, I'm going to attach my pasta machine to my table, to my work surface, and then I'm going to make sure it's tight enough, it's not moving. Has to be that tight. And then we have different holes for each shapes and cuts, but that's the part you use for that stuff. And then the one I'm winding now is the adjustment for the space where you first roll the dough out. So I'm putting some flour. I'm dusting some flour on there just to make sure it doesn't stick. Now, this particular dough was a bit difficult to work with at first, but I figured it out. I'm just going to advise, cut that into 2 bits and try to roll out your dough with a rolling pin first. Flatten it first before you put it into the machine. So I decided to go to the part where I had to use a rolling pin, because if you look at the far end, you can see one already stretched out and it was a bit difficult. So I decided to roll that out with my rolling pin just to make the rolling with the machine easier. Now this machine has numbers 1 to 5 or 6, I want to believe, but for every time I rolled for the largest, from the largest to the smallest. So what I did was to take it twice on one setting, and that is how I went. You can see our pasta is getting longer. So I've trimmed off the edge, and now I'm about to put it in the small section, which can be used for spaghetti or the capellini. So after I've done that, I'm doing the second one. I've been able to do that, and then I'm also going to put that through the capellini machine and then roll that out again. You see the thickness that we want. That is the thickness we want because we want a spaghetti. However, if you want a capellini, you can make this thickness one step lower than this on that machine. You make it thinner, and then you get capellini, the thin hair pasta. So I'm just going to pass this through the thin cutter. At this point, my machine seemed to be stiff, but I was struggling. Can you see how beautifully that is coming out? Yes, we have just made our own spaghetti in the house. This is not store-bought. There's no preservative, no chemicals whatsoever. We're just making this naturally. So yeah, this is our semo. In a way, we're still having semo and egusi. We are still having semo and egusi, yeah, but not in the way we usually do. So after we've done that, we're just going to dust some flour on this, and then we're just going to either put that rolled on the table, or we can hang that on a wood or something and just make it stay straight. Now, pasta dries out quite easily, so you need to know how to work very quickly with your pasta. I have already put some boiling water on the fire for this pasta, so we're going to see how we cook our pasta. You can see how the pasta is looking. It's really looking nice. Sorry about the whole setting. There's no light, but I'm still trying to shoot this video, and I'm hoping that it's clear enough for you to see. To a small pan, I'm going to be melting some butter, and this is just to fry the tomatoes that we have taken the back off, and it's just going to be used for garnish. So you can either do this or you can leave this part. It's not a necessity, or you can decide to add whatever vegetables that sits well with you. So I'm just using tomatoes just because it has that, it kind of cuts through the oily, the fat that comes through the egusi. It has that acidic taste, and it just balances out everything. So to that, I'm going to add a crushed garlic, and then I'm going to add my tomatoes to this pan, and I'll be adding some salt, and just allow that to fry for just like a minute or two, not too long, so we do not overcook our tomatoes. So after that is done, into the pot of boiling water I said I have already put on, I'm going to add salt. I'm just going to add enough salt, and don't be worried because we're still going to wash off the salt in a way. So to that water, I'm going to throw in my pasta. Normally, if you are not adding your pasta into a sauce to still cook for a bit, you would allow this pasta sit in a more deeper, like a bigger pot, and then this pasta is going to sink down and it would rise to the top. That is how you know that your pasta is ready. It's like, if you have watched my video, if you haven't, go check out my yam gnocchi video, and you will see how the gnocchi went down and then it floated up. That is exactly what will happen with your pasta. So the pasta has cooked for a bit, let me say about 60%, and because I'm going to be adding this to our egusi sauce, I'm going to take that out. I'm going to strain it out, and then I'm going to put it back in the pot and add some cold water. This is to stop the cooking of this pasta. Now, somehow we have washed off the salt. We have somehow washed off the salt, although we will still have like a little bit of the salt on it, which is also good because our sauce, egusi sauce, is not heavily flavored. Now it's time to combine everything together, our semo and egusi. So I'm just going to add my egusi to this saucepan, and then I'm going to add some liquid gradually, just because we don't want it to be very thick. We just want something that this spaghetti can sit in, and it just embraces it, and it's still going to cook in it. Like I said, it's just 60% cooked. So I've put in my spaghetti, and I'm just going to try and mix that up. You would realize that with time I keep adding water. You need to keep adding water. If it's looking like it's drying up, you need to add water, and then you need to check your seasoning, like check the taste. If it's not okay for you, if the pepper is not enough, if the salt is not enough, add to your taste. So I'm going to mix this up. I'm going to add some water, and then I'm going to cover it and allow it to cook. After some time, I checked my pasta, and then I'm satisfied with this. So I've just added some ugu leaf, extra ugu leaf, also known as pumpkin leaf. You can use spinach wherever you are. If you can't find ugu, you can use spinach. So that's what our pasta is looking like. It's looking like creamy pasta, but this is semo and egusi. I was so excited about this, and I had other people taste this dish, and they were skeptical at first, but they really enjoyed it. So yeah, this is everything about our egusi and pasta. So it's time for us to just put it on a plate and eat. So to a plate, I'm adding my pasta, just trying to roll it. Try to recreate this that I saw on Instagram on the chef's page. Then I'm going to put that on the plate, and to that I'm going to put more of our egusi sauce on top of the pasta. I'm going to add my fresh tomatoes that I have sauteed in the pan in butter, and then I'm going to add some lemon basil and then some shrimps. And there you have it, guys. That is our semo and egusi. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like, and share this video. Thank you for watching. Till next time, keep exploring. Bye.